in my domain. Got the whole crowd screaming out our name. It's a blowout, it's a hurricane. It's over before you know it. While you shaking, we're a dynasty in the making. We're the royalty. Now we're breaking down the enemy. Move over for the soldiers. Take a swing, I can take a hit. If we die, it's fine. We live for this. It's all for this. We're gonna stand on top with our hands in the sky. Gonna raise our cup to the stadium lights. For the glory, for the glory. We celebrate with the city tonight. Hear the hometown cheer, it's the ultimate high. For the glory, we do it for the glory.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we prepare ourselves for race number 23 of the season. 3 races, and to include this race, 4 races remaining in the regular season before we're going to be determining 16 drivers that will battle it out for this season's championship for the Hersheys Cup Series Season 6. And we have a lot, and I do mean a lot, of candidates. And at this point, there are a couple of candidates that come into this race with a win that are outside of one of those 16 available spots in the playoffs. So I can guarantee if we have more different winners go to victory lane here in the upcoming 4 races, we are going to have a lot of drivers vying for what seems like a lot of spots. 16 spots, the most championship positions we have out of the 3 series, and there's going to be a lot of drivers that are going to be finishing out the regular season with a win that probably won't be competing for a championship. So it's really a lot on the line for drivers here today, especially those that have a win that would love to get a second win, much like Benny Watson did last week. Watson, of course, picked up his second win of the season, second win of his career, and he now joins Brooke Allen and Alex Drayton as a multi-time winner this season that right now would find themselves locked into the playoffs and with a very good seed to start off the postseason as well. But we talk about drivers that are looking for their first win of the season. We've got 2 candidates starting right on the front row. The Ford, number 12, out of Young Motorsports of Cody Smart. He comes into this race currently situated in the, I just lost it, there it is, 29th position in the points. So he right now is still in position to have a win, maybe count towards a playoff position. And look who's alongside of him, Jessica Shelton. Now she's got 2 different things coming into this race as far as a story surrounding the 0-2. Number 1, she's looking for her first win of the season, but number 2, she's trying to get herself out of the danger zone. Coming into this race, 5 drivers scored 38th through 42nd in the point standings, would lose their charters for next season if that's where they finish out the year. Shelton is 40th in the point standings, being joined by Joshua Ciculli, Johnny Gardner, Kat Batson, and Blaine Keys in those 5 danger positions. So if Shelton's going to find herself with the Hersheys Cup Series ride next season, she's got to get herself out of that danger zone. And maybe here today with a trip to victory lane, maybe she'd be able to do that. As a matter of fact, Jessica Shelton is the defending winner of this race. Last year, she went coast to coast, started on the pole, and went to victory lane. She starts 1 position worse than that here today, starting in 2nd, but maybe, just maybe, she can get her 2nd straight win at Pikes Peak. We're going to have to wait and see if that's the case. Like I said, there's a lot of drivers coming into this race that have a win, and it's going to be a big battle down there for drivers trying to get that final spot as far as one-time winners. There's a big clump of drivers down there. J Arndt, Anthony McCrury, 23rd through 25th in the standings. That's where a lot of our focus will be today, provided we don't have a different driver go to victory lane. Let's go down trackside, get those most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
And out of the 3 drivers I mentioned there, between Arndt, McCrury, and Miles, Arndt starting the best of them. He'll be rolling off from the 5th position. Time to give you your top 10 overall in the point standings coming to today's race, presented by Golden Corral. Joshua Cobb, the points leader, who lines up 4th for today's race, searching for his 2nd win of the season. He's the points leader, 35 points in hand over a tie for 2nd between Zachary Fitzwater and 3-time winner Brooke Allen. 36 points back in 4th, that's Jordan Anderson. Charles Sandfer is 5th in the standings. He is 43 points out of the points lead. Rest of the top 10 in points are Tim Walsh, Trent Dunham, Brandon Gonzales, Daniel Voyles, and R Reynolds Out of the top 10 coming to this race, only one is inside the top 10 in the standings without a victory this season, and that is Anderson in the 4th position. We'll give you a look at what your playoff points would look like at this point coming into this race. But for now, we're getting ready to go racing for 50 laps at Pikes Peak. Cody Smart, Jessica Shelton await the green flag. It's in the air. Let's roll. I mentioned Jessica Shelton is the defending winner of this race. Pikes Peak debuted back in the Season 4 schedule. The inaugural winner of this event, L Alvarise. So we'll see if maybe he can pick up his second career win here at this track, as they're 3 wide already for second. Benny Watson wasting no time after his win last week at Daytona. He's going to move from the 3rd position up to 2nd. Also some good battling back here with J Baskinger, J Arndt, a couple of teammates there. As a matter of fact, all 3 of the Flying Aces racing cars qualified inside the top 10. And there's Dylan Young in the 2. Now, I mentioned I was going to talk about the playoffs coming into this race as far as the drivers that are locked in. Now, Dylan Young is a driver that a lot of rumors are swirling in terms of whether he's going to make the playoffs or not. He's a 2-time winner, but he's 34th in the standings, and last week at Daytona was not a good day for him. He now finds himself behind the 30th position in points by a total of, I think it's 3 points. So he still has a mathematical chance to get in, as the caution flag is already out. Yellow flag is out for the first time here today, and it was on lap number 3, I believe, that it came out. Might have been lap 2. Got some skid marks there on the back straightaway, and it looks like we're going to have some drivers hitting pit road here under this yellow flag. Cody Smart, Benny Watson, Joshua Collett are all headed for pit road. Shelton's going to stay out, so it looks like she'll be the leader when we go back green. And boy, we got a big congestion back here. See some front-end damage on the 34 of K Shearer. They're 4 wide, 2 rows deep right now. What the heck are they doing? Are they all going to try to come to pit road like this? Okay, this is a new one. Look at that. They're 4 wide coming to pit road. They better get themselves single file, because I think there is a pit wall here that they all might end up hitting if they don't get themselves settled out to single file. Looks like they're doing a good job of doing that right now, but okay then. So we got some drivers that did stay out. Shelton, Kat Batson, Zachary Fitzwater, J Richardson, Benjamin Miles, Jordan Anderson, and Lee McIntyre. So they'll probably be the top 7 when we go back green. Right side tires for Cody Smart. He's down and away. Almost got beaten off pit road by Joshua Collett. Maybe he did. I don't know. But regardless, we're under caution for the first time here today. I'm not certain what brought out the yellow, but your current race leader now, after a number of the leaders came to pit road, is Jessica Shelton. Let's take a look and see what happened on the back straightaway. This one actually happened more off the exit of turn 2 and then kind of culminated on the back straightaway. Watch right here. You see Tim Walsh on the outside. He's got R.J. Reynolds to the inside, and then it's 4 wide as Alvarez and Miles drive it down to the bottom. So it's a 4 wide situation coming off of turn number 2, and there's just not really enough room to fit them 4 wide here, at least under green flag conditions at Pikes Peak. And you see right there, the 69 gets tight off the corner, comes up the racetrack, and up into Tim Walsh. Tim Walsh kind of pancaked into that safer barrier. R.J. Reynolds, though, good job of kind of dragging the brake, allowing the front end to come back around, and then gets the thing going again. So we got away with one there because the 69 was sideways. They had to throw the caution, so that's what brought out the yellow for the first time here today at Pikes Peak. Let's go back to green. Should be going back green here. I believe the lights are out top the pace car, so the green flag will come back out on lap 7 of 50. The top 7 decided to stay out. Shelton, Kat Batson, Zachary Fitzwater, James Richardson, Benjamin Miles, Jordan Anderson, and Levi McIntyre. So they'll restart the top 7. Joshua Collett did win that battle off pit road between himself and Cody Smart, so he'll restart in 8th. Smart will be 9th, and Benny Watson will restart in 10th. So Shelton trying to go for back-to-back wins here at Pikes Peak. But if this thing goes into a long green flag run, keep in mind, with that caution coming out when it did, all the drivers that came to pit road under that yellow flag will be somewhere around 2 to 3 laps better on fuel than the 7 drivers that stayed out. So I think that these 7 stayed out to get good track position in the hopes that maybe this thing will go long enough. They'll get themselves a caution, then everybody will have to come to pit road, and they won't have lost out on a lot of good track position that they gained here with this strategy. Battle on for the lead. Kat Batson at the inside of Jessica Shelton. 2 drivers that are looking for their first win of the season. 2 drivers that are trying to get out of the cellar of the point standings as well. And a battle on for third. J Richardson now to the inside of Zachary Fitzwater. Fitzwater tied for second in the points coming into this race. I was looking back actually through the point standings from last season and season before, all the way back to season 1. Zachary Fitzwater has at least one trip to victory lane every season since season 2. He's got 7 career wins, including one this year. So Fitzwater been a kind of under the radar driver, but I think he definitely might be a force to reckon with when the playoffs are put together. While we're talking about the playoffs, let's give you who the drivers right now coming into this race currently have the 16 playoff positions. Now, we already know that B Allan with 3 wins holds the number 1 seed, and now Benny Watson, along with Alex Drayton, 2-time winners, they've got the number 2 seed with their 2 wins. The other drivers with 1 win that would hold the other 13 slots as Kat Batson clears Shelton for the top position would include Joshua Collard, Zachary Fitzwater, Charles Sandfer, T Walch, Trent Dunham, Brandon Gonzales, Daniel Voiles, R Reynolds, K Shearer, Dallas McIntosh, D Poteet, J Arndt, and Anthony McCrury. Now, McCrury holds the 16th seed by 5 points over Benjamin Miles. And keep in mind, this is only because Dylan Young is not inside the top 30 in the point stands. If Dylan Young gets back into the top 30 in points, then McCrury would be the driver that would also be out. And then we also have to bear in mind, too, that L Alvarise is a winner this season that is outside the top 30 in points in 35th. But he is only 4 points behind 30th in the standings. So, like I said, Dylan Young's 3 points behind. L Alvarise is 4 points behind. Both those drivers have an opportunity still to get back into the top 30 in the point standings and battle for a playoff position. I'll tell you who was really good on that last restart. That was J Arndt in the 0-5. He restarted outside of the top 10. He's already up to the 7th position as a couple of teammates side by side here. Jordan Anderson in the 89, Fitzwater in the 59. As we mentioned, Jordan Anderson, the only driver inside the top 10 in the point standings that does not yet have a trip to victory lane. And as we get towards this point of the season, in the terms of knowing now that including this race, there's only 4 races remaining, we can start to make a little bit of a checklist of drivers that have only 1 win this season that will more than likely make it into the playoffs. I think Joshua Collard, Zachary Fitzwater, they're locked in. Charles Sandfer, T Walch, Trent Dunham, Brandon Gonzales, Daniel Voiles, R Reynolds, and K Shearer. I'd say all those drivers at this point in time, they're locked into the playoffs, provided we don't end up having a lot more one-time winners go to victory, first-time winners go to victory lane this season, as the caution is out again. And this may have been the yellow flag that Shelton and Kat Batson and others were looking for. Let's see if drivers that came to pit road under the first caution, if they're going to come to pit road this time. Yes, they are. You see J Arndt's coming to pit road. So this was the yellow flag that those drivers that stayed out under the last caution were looking for. They're going to keep good starting track position for this restart. And we had some smoke there. Oh, that's Cole Baker. I was going to say there was some smoke lingering in turn 4, and it was Baker who was got a lot of damage. There's damage as well on the 2 of Dylan Young, and then there's also damage further up there. Joseph Srigley, Emmanuel Hartnett. I think Blaine Keys has damage. I think there was a stack up here under yellow. J Gilbert's also got some rear and left side damage on his Chevrolet. There is Keys. And the 42, there's Hartnett. He's got both front and rear end damage. J Baskinger, JT Bryant, Joseph Srigley, Brandon Gonzales, all with damage. We had ourselves a bit of a stack up there under caution. A lot of damage there on the 39 of Keith Batson. Looks like Levi McIntyre, Trent Dunham got some damage. See some rear end damage on the back of Zachary Fitzwater, who was up in the top 5. Benny Watson, Joshua Collard. We had a big stack up under that yellow. And Kat Batson's going to come off pit road as the race leader over J Richardson. Benjamin Miles 3rd, Shelton 4th, Anderson 5th. That's the way they'll... Oh, no! I was going to say that's the way they'd line up, but we actually had another driver come off pit road ahead of them, J Arndt and K Mathews. Looks like that'll be the top 2 when we go back green. I'm not certain about 69 of R Reynolds. Okay, he's coming to pit road. So it looks like J Arndt will be the race leader when we go back green over K Mathews. I think they came to pit road, too, so... Maybe they went with fuel only. Maybe those other drivers had to take tires, and those drivers that pitted under the first caution only had to take fuel. But J Arndt is going to be the race leader when we go back green. Let's see what happened to Cole Baker. Another incident off turn number 2, and this was up, I think, just outside of the top 10. Brooke Allen, Dylan Young racing side by side, and I don't know if one came down or one came up. The end result is the 3 hooks the 2. Dylan Young, who's trying to make his way back into the top 30 in the point standings, off the nose of a drive that's already locked into the playoffs. And Brooke Allen, now watch right here, Dylan Young very smartly is able to get back into the throttle when the car turned itself back around. But the problem was this track does not have very much banking on the apron. He keeps the thing in full throttle, and watch right here. He's going to hit the grass transition. That car's out of control. Back up the track, clips the back of Elijah Gilbert, and right in front of the 18 of Cole Baker. Nowhere for him to go. All 3 cars up and into the outside retaining wall, and that's what sent Baker behind the wall. I don't know if Dylan Young's going to be able to continue or not. Remember, he only needs 3 points to get himself back into the top 30 in the standings, and if they don't get that car repaired and he's not able to pick up spots on the racetrack, that could be very, very treacherous for the 2 car. This was probably, with how close the points are coming in this race, the best chance he had of getting himself back into playoff competition. But that's what brought out the caution for the second time here today at Pikes Peak. Green flag just went back in the air. We just missed it as they're heading into turns 1 and 2, and R.J. Reynolds down on the apron getting out of everybody's way, so he obviously had an unscheduled stop when we saw him on that last caution. He's coming back to pit road. It's a tough break there for the driver of the 69 as J Arndt restarted with the lead but didn't hold on to it for very long. Kat Batson got by both Kyle Mathews and J Arndt. Goes from 3rd to 1st in 1 lap, so she's back to the top position. Now, under our last caution, we did not show you drivers out of the race because there weren't any retirees. There are after this incident and that stack-up we saw there with a lot of drivers that had damage, and they include the cars of Brooke Allen, Daniel Gilbert, Shane Lake, Dylan Poteet, Trent Dunham, Brandon Gonzales, Joseph Srigley, Blaine Keys, Emmanuel Hartnett. They all basically retired out of the race due to the stack-up damage. The only driver that really retired out of the race due to the caution wreck was Cole Baker in 42nd. One driver that's going to definitely gain off that too, if you look, is the 29th place car, Dylan Young. He's continuing on, so we'll see if maybe he'll be able to pick up a few more spots and remain in the top 30 in the standings after we leave Pikes Peak. Kat Batson way out in front right now, though, being chased down by last year's winner J Shelton. Was about 6/10 back last lap, cut it down by 2/10 now to just under 4/10 of a second. So Shelton reeling Kat Batson back in, side by side for 3rd as he got the 69 of R.J. Reynolds again. This time he's going to stay on track, and that's going to be right between 2nd in this battle for 3rd place between Anderson and Richardson, and Anderson, using the 69 as a pick, will take the spot. Levi McIntyre now up in 5th place. You see he's got some rear end damage from that stack up, but it doesn't seem to have affected him too badly speed-wise, as he's now going to try and take 4th from James Richardson. McIntyre's actually had some pretty good runs last couple of weeks. Daytona was not the greatest, though. He dropped 4 spots in the standings down to 36th, but before that, he was having some pretty good runs. He found himself down in that danger zone of that area. If you finish there, you don't get a charter for next season. He was able to race his way out of that and trying to bounce back from a poor performance last week at Daytona. We talked about Benjamin Miles. Right now, it'd be 17th of the 16 chase-seeded drivers, so trying to race his way into that. And the good news for him is that he's ahead of Anthony McCrury, who right now would have came into this race holding that 16th seed. Had 5 points over Benjamin Miles. Miles right now is 6th. McCrury is 13th. So right now Benjamin Miles would hold that 16th seed, provided Dylan Young, according to our live point standings, is not in the top 30. Here's the battle for the lead as we are just now getting to the halfway point of this race. We've already worked 2 cautions, and it has taken out numerous drivers, and most of it's been due to stack-ups under caution rather than drivers retiring, actually due to the wrecks that brought out the yellow flags, as Shelton to the inside will take the spot from Kat Batson. You gotta wonder what's more important to these 2 particular drivers. The win to get out of the danger zone of 38th or lower in the point standings, or the win to try and get momentum and try and get up into the top 30 in points to get a playoff spot in the remaining 4 races of the season. Both these drivers have taken part in the playoffs. Jessica Shelton was a part of the playoffs, I believe it was last season. She had a win last year, and I believe it got her into the playoffs. And Kat Batson, back when she won the 2 road course races in Season 3 at Sonoma and Watkins Glen, made the playoffs. But that's the last time that she's been to Victory Lane or made the playoffs. Check and see here about Shelton. I do believe Shelton was a chaser last year. She had a victory at Pikes Peak, obviously, as we've already documented, and I believe that was enough to get her into the chase for the championship. Indeed it was. She finished 13th out of 16 drivers that year. I think. Did we have only 12 drivers last year in the playoffs? I thought we had 16. So if we did have 16, then yeah, she was in the playoffs. Right now, though, Shelton out in front. She's opening up the distance between herself and Kat Batson right now. Jordan Anderson right there in third. Fourth place is James Richardson. Best battle close to the front is for the 5th spot. Benjamin Miles has it. Levi McIntyre wants it. Move a little further back here as it looks like McIntyre is going to make a move. Kyle Mathews is now up in the 7th position. John R. 8th, Cody Smart 9th. And we talked about Anthony McCrury coming in that critical 16th seed. Well, he's now cracked the top 10, so that's bad news for Benjamin Miles. We've actually got the 3 drivers we were going to highlight here that are battling near the tail end of the playoffs. They're all up in the top 10. Miles is 5th, John Art right there in 8th, and McCrury trying to take 9th from Cody Smart. Saw the 15 of Tim Walsh up and into the wall at the first caution after he and R Reynolds made contact, but Walsh has been able to rebound. He's now up, I believe, in the 12th position. Leon Alvarise, his teammate, right there in 13th. Of course, Leon Alvarise trying to make his way back into the top 30 in points. There's Alex Drayton, 2-time winner. He comes into this race right now situated in the 15th position in points. I think if he can finish out the day with a top 15, I think he would definitely be confirmed in the playoffs regardless of what happens in the next 3 races. And Joshua Collard, points leader coming to this race. Another consistent run in the top 15 for the 33, despite you see that damage he got under one of our caution stack-ups. This is where all the fun is right now. From 7th place Kyle Mathews on back to around 12th place, which I think is 12th place, Tim Walsh. Either 10th or 11th. Mathews, Arndt, McCrury, Fitzwater, Smart, and Walsh. As the gap has increased to about a half second between Shelton and Batson. And you gotta wonder, when that caution came out around, what was it, lap 7, 8, something like that. Everybody came to pit road, but the question is, was that pit stop the only pit stop they're going to have to make for the remainder of this race, or are they going to have to come to pit road for fuel at least one more time? One thing I've been told by drivers here at this particular track is it's not as much the fuel you worry about as the grip in the tires and the tire rubber wear here, especially that right front. The tire heat builds up and that right front wears very quickly. I don't think I've seen a driver come to pit road yet today that hasn't taken on at least 2 right side tires on their pit stop. Shelton, another 10th over Kat Batson. Batson just seeming to lose touch with Shelton's Chevrolet. May have to have the aid of a caution, or may need to basically be fooling us all into thinking she's just hanging back for the moment in order to have a shot at getting up there for this race win. Jordan Anderson's almost 2 seconds back from the leader right now. Still another solid outing for him, former Pizza Hut X Series champion, and boy, it's going to be a heartbreak for this team if they can't find victory lane the next 4 races. Had such a consistent rookie season. They're leading the rookie points battle right now, but if, you know, with the consistent season they're having, if the one trip to victory lane locks them out of making it into the playoffs, I mean, that's huge for that team. It's going to be quite a heartbreaking season for them. Coming so close, but just not able to close the deal. James Richardson Coming to this race, one of the 5 drivers right now that would, or I'm sorry, no, he's actually right on the cusp. He's 37th in the points, so he'd be the last driver to keep his charter for next season. He's actually stepped his finishes up pretty well in the last couple of weeks. He and his teammate Emmanuel Hartnett, the Fire Ice Racing Toyota, is doing pretty well. You know, I was actually looking at the projected drivers for the upcoming season 7 of the Hersheys Cup Series, and at this point in time, there are no drivers in line for driving a Toyota Camry next season. So we may end up having a field completely comprised of Chevy Camaros and Ford Fusions as we're moving to the Monster Energy Cup Series, 18 mod next year. We do have one Nissan Maxima that's going to be in the field, but to my knowledge, we do not yet have any confirmed drivers for Toyota Camrys. Miles, McIntyre, I think their cars are just about at the same level of speed with each other. McIntyre might have been a little faster, but I think maybe that rear end damage is hindering him aerodynamically wise. And Anthony McCrury continues to march his way towards the front. He restarted outside of the top 10, and he's now taking the 7th position from Kyle Mathews, a couple of former Hersheys Cup Series champions battling right there. McCrury, the inaugural winner of the championship back in Season 1. Kyle Mathews won the championship, I believe it was back in Season 3. J Arndt running well right now in the 9th position, but he's under fire from T Walch for that spot. Ooh, Walsh getting very close to that left rear quarter panel there out of turn 4, but he will get to the inside. And let's find out where the 2 of Dylan Young is running, because for Arndt, McCrury, Miles, their championship hopes, their chase hopes really all depend on that 2 machine. Benny Watson's back here, last week's winner. There's Dylan Young making forward progress to the inside of Charles Sandfer, who went to victory lane a few weeks ago at Thornton. Dylan Young has fought his way up to the 25th position. Some of the drivers he needed to get by in the point stands, get into the top 30 in the points, included, if I can find it here, included Keith Batson, Chris Dodd, J Baskinger, James McCloud, Cody Smart. Well, we know Cole Baker's out of the race, so he'll pass him. Cody Smart is 12th, so he hasn't passed him. McCloud is 16th. He has not passed him. Baskinger, I think he's behind him right now. Baskinger's 26th, so right now Dylan Young would make up at least a little ground on him. Keith Batson's 30th. So it's at least 2 drivers that he's running ahead of right now, but not by much. I think some drivers that he may be able to gain more ground on than not would be Cole Baker and Daniel Gilbert, who are both out of this race. Baker was about 12 points ahead of Dylan Young, and Gilbert was about 21 points ahead of Dylan Young. So if Dylan Young can close up those kind of gaps on those particular drivers, he may have a shot of making it into the top 30 here this week, but we'll have to wait and see. He's kind of like the Nathan Hudson of the Hersheys Cup Series. Nathan Hudson down the Pizza Deck Series has been fluctuating between inside the top 30 and outside the top 30 week after week. And the trend didn't work for Dylan Young here today. Usually the last few weeks, it's been he has a good run, moves into the top 30 in points. He has a bad run, falls out of the top 30 in points. Now, looks like he may end up having back-to-back mediocre weeks. Did not finish well last week at Daytona. If I remember correctly, I think he finished dead last. It's either dead last or 41st. It was down near the bottom of the finishing results. Speaking of finishing, though, Jessica Shelton hoping that this race finishes quickly, because she's out in front, over a second and a half back to Kat Batson, and 5 laps to go. Shelton trying to do something for the second time in her career, be a multi-time winner at a particular track. Shelton is a 2-time winner at Darlington, has won there in 2 of her 5 career starts. And now in her 3rd start at Pikes Peak, trying to become a multi-time winner here. Now Shelton, the gap between her and 30th in the point standings is currently set at 80 points. The most you can gain in a race is roughly 47 points. So with 3 races remaining, if she closes the deal with the win here, it is still possible for Jessica Shelton to get herself into the top 30 in points and maybe battle for a playoff position, but she's going to need really good runs in the upcoming races at Hillside, DuQuoin, and of course the regular season finale at M&M's, as she will put RJ Reynolds down another lap there in the 69. That puts a lap car between herself and second place, as this time by it will be 2 laps to go. But I think big picture, Shelton wanting to check off at least 2 things off the checklist. Number 1, find victory lane for the first time this season, but number 2, get out of those 5 danger zone slots where you would lose a charter for next year for Hersheys Cup Season 7. This victory would certainly help her towards that goal. Doesn't look like fuel is going to be an issue. Shelton's got over a 2 3/4 lead. She can just ride for the last lap as the white flag is displayed. Shelton looking to get Retro Racing Enterprises their 2nd win in 4 weeks. Sandfer started it off at Thornton, actually be the 2nd win in 3 weeks. It was 2 weeks ago that Sandfer won at Thornton. And now the question for Shelton, with this victory, does she get out of that danger zone? Does she move towards the top 30 in points? We'll find out, though, as checker flags in the air. Shelton wins here today at Pikes Peak for the 2nd straight year. Last year, started first, finished first. This year, started a little bit further back, 2nd place, and still came away with the victory. And you got to go back to the very first caution when Shelton did not come to pit road. She stayed out. Most everybody else came to pit road with the exception of 6 other drivers. Then she got another caution back on, I think it was lap 14. Came to pit road, and that was the only stop they needed. She got by Kat Batson on that last green flag run and never looked back. So Jessica Shelton, we'll have to see if this win gets her out of the danger zone and gets her anywhere mathematically close to maybe making the top 30 in the points, as she'll try and make a last-minute bid potentially here for a spot in this season's chase for the championship. Standings should be official. They are indeed. It's an all-female 1-2. Shelton with the win. Kat Batson brings it home in 2nd place. Jordan Anderson gets yet again Rookie of the Race. He continues to open up his points gap as well in the rookie points battle, as he'll get a podium in 3rd. James Richardson brings it home 4th, and Benjamin Miles in 5th. So it's going to make that points battle between Miles, McCrury, and Arndt even more close, because Miles was 5th, McCrury was 7th, and John Arndt finished in 10th. Drivers finished around them. Levi McIntyre was 6th. Tim Walsh brought it home in 8th. Kyle Mathews there in 9th. Then it was 11th place Cody Smart, Alex Drayton in 12th, L Alvarise 13th. We'll have to see if that run puts him back in the top 30 in points. Joshua Colley brought it home 14th, and 15th was Zachary Fitzwater. Rest of your top 20, James McCloud, Chris Dodd, Daniel Voiles, K Shearer, and Johnny Gardner. 2 of those drivers, Chris Dodd, James McCloud, were drivers that Dylan Young was trying to catch and pass here today to get back in the top 30 in points. Dylan Young finished 23rd here in this race, and so we'll have to see if maybe that was enough for him to get into the top 30 in the point stands or not. L Alvarise, his 15th place finish. I'm sorry, not 15th. Where was he? 12th? 13th? Something like that. He was 13th. We'll have to see if that was enough to get him into the top 30 as well, as we ended up having 2 cautions, and it was only the 2nd caution that took out a number of drivers out of the race, mostly due to a stack-up under yellow flag conditions. And it took out cars of Brooke Allen, Daniel Gilbert, Shane Lake, Dylan Poteet, Trent Dunham, Brandon Gonzales, Joseph Srigley, Blaine Keys, Emmanuel Hartnett, and Cole Baker. Only car to finish off the lead lap to finish the race was RJ Reynolds in 32nd. 31 cars finished on the lead lap here today at Pikes Peak. But that's going to do it here today from Pikes Peak International Raceway. Hope you guys enjoyed today's race. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. We've shown you full-page results, the easy rookie point standings, your overall point standings. 16 drivers highlighted in yellow are the drivers that would hold the 16 playoff spots if the regular season came to an end here today and the chase began. Next week, we are having all 3 series going to maybe, in my opinion, the smallest super speedway in history. They're going to race 3 wide, they're going to race 4 wide, and I think the track's about 3/4 of a mile long. We're going to be going to Hillside for all 3 series, Trucks, Pizza Hut X Series, and Hersheys Cup Series action, all going to be coming your way. You're not going to want to miss it. That track's a lot of fun, and it could definitely play a huge factor into new names that could pop up into playoff contention. Till then, I've been Seth Cole. You've been watching a production of the NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best.